Starting. Good morning, everyone. Namaste. Welcome. Good to be with you. Feel free. That's kind of the message this morning. The rest will be sitting in silence. This is really what we're up to. We're finding a way to take a deep breath and let it all out. Let out what we've been living up until now. Realize that we can breathe again in a deeper, more profound and peaceful way. So again, I want to welcome all of you. I want to welcome those joining us on Facebook. Come in, take a sigh of relief. You've made it to another present moment. Sunday morning here at Unity is a time where we want to really stop what we're used to thinking in the ordinary world and shift gears. We often talk about church as this crossing of a threshold into a different space, a sacred space, so that we can connect with something that's been hidden from our ordinary vision, that we don't normally see or think about, which is our spirit, our sacred self, this deeper divine presence. And as we always come back to this now famous saying from A Course in Miracles, heaven is here, there is nowhere else. Heaven is now, there is no other time, which means that we are native to this heavenly state, and this self-imposed exile is going on until we've recognized what we're doing, how we're doing it. And getting out of the suffering of life has been the game or methodology of every religion that is worth its salt. And so we're going to be looking today more or less into the heart or essence of all religions, and what are they really getting at? What are they driving at? And when we say that life is the way that we normally live life as these separate egos is normally suffering or dissatisfying. If we have been a student of religion for any time, we probably go back to the words of the Buddha, who had his first noble truth through this great realization that he received or accepted. That is, life is dissatisfactory. Life is full of the ups and downs, and it's rocky. It's never easeful. You can't really find equanimity, joy, and lasting peace in life the way we normally live it. And the way that the Buddha had structured his Four Noble Truths is very much in keeping with the diagnosis of a doctor. So the doctor is saying basically, you have a fatal disease. The fatal disease is life. Nobody gets out of here alive. So the day that you were conceived is the day that is the beginning of your death. So this fatal disease is never going to satisfy you. But there is a way of getting the right medicine. So we've diagnosed your problem, which is you're not really at peace here, and there's something in you that wants to be at peace. But you can't find peace, says the Buddha in the Second Noble Truth, because you're craving for things all the time. You're on this endless search to find what you feel that you've inherently lost. Everybody's doing it. Everybody's not at home or not at peace within the normal frame of mind, and everybody's desirous to find that peace and that settledness and that self-knowing and that belonging and that love. So we can't find that, says the Buddha, because we're searching for where it's not. In fact, he goes even deeper. He says your fatal disease is not just desiring, it's grasping for something that you're not. In other words, you're trying to be somebody that you're not. That we're not thinking of this consciously. This is why in Buddhism especially, meditation plays such a key role, because you have to quiet the surface mind. in order to start to extract this kind of subtler information. Most of us are not interested in that. We're turned outward towards the world, and we're chasing after what we think we're missing, and we're blindly following our desires and impulses and our appetites in hope that this one will finally give it to us. But if we've recognized at a certain point that it's, really just dissatisfactory to keep doing this, we begin to quiet down. And so the quieting down, Joe, would you mind shutting those doors? Thank you. The quieting down gives us access to the fact that we're really craving to be somebody, and this somebody is the disease. That's why the third noble truth is you have to annihilate the somebody that you're trying to be, right? Buddha just said nirodha, cessation, stop. Now, what I like about A Course in Miracles is it works with these same ideas. It's prescriptory, it's prescriptive. There's a noble truth structure within A Course in Miracles. And he says basically, I actually could turn to it so it's clear for all of us, that when we're not at peace, when we're not feeling settled, when we're not in equanimity, when we're not joyous, he says, first, know that whatever it is that you're feeling that's causing you upset, anguish, anxiety, know that this is fear. So whatever's arising in your mind that's causing you upset is a form of fear. Any dissatisfaction, any suffering is a form of fear. So that's the first noble truth of Jesus' course. The second is fear arises from lack of love. So very much like the craving of the Buddha, you're out there trying to fill a void, that you're empty within and you're trying to find stuff and people without to help fill what you feel is missing. Jesus is saying what's really missing is love. But not love from other bodies who are also caught in this chain of suffering, craving for it themselves. You'll never be able to get it from them because they don't have it. So, second noble truth in the Course is know that fear arises, you're feeling this, because you lack love, God's love, divine love. Whatever it is, whatever is not causing you to feel totally blissed out in this moment is a sign that you're lacking love. Physical pain, emotional pain, psychological pain, fears of lack, whatever it is, it's all arising from a root within your heart, which is the absence of divine presence, the lack of love. Right? Now, he refers to love as this all-encompassing state. So don't minimize it or sentimentalize what he means by love. Love is the one core reality that is eternal. So it is the unbreakable divine substance. It is the unity consciousness behind all appearances. It's Buddha nature. It's Christ nature. The third noble truth in the Course, so remember Buddha said that, in order to get out of this disease, you have to stop being who you're not. Cease being who you're not. Jesus says the only remedy for lack of love is perfect love. Very similar, because what we oftentimes mistake for ourself, the one who is seeking, the one who lives within the body realm on the surface, We call it by our name. We see it as our body form, our self-concept, our story. That whole structure of the self, that whole concept of the self, is the manifestation or the symbol of lack of love. You came into this world crying because somehow you knew. And it hasn't gone right since. There might have been flickers and moments, great peak experiences, but it hasn't finished. You haven't left the veil of tears. And so this is why, I wanted to start out today's message by basically saying we're within this hour going to solve the whole problem of life, and we're going to end all suffering. It's very easy to see through it when you've had enough of it. Because now you're not going to be a dupe and going unconscious in the face of the remedy. So this is why, it's counterintuitive in many ways. We don't think that we can possibly do this or act in such a way. But according to A Course in Miracles, and again with Buddhism too, you can see it, we don't want to stop being who we are. We're stubbornly and addictively invested in who we are. And we're so under the magical spell of the ego thoughts that we do believe that just around the next bend will be the thing that I've been looking for my whole life. It hasn't worked out yet, but I know before I leave this body and slough off the mortal coil, that there's somehow going to be the confirmation that I was right, that there was someone, there was something out there that would really do it for me. So we're not looking for the love that would end our suffering. We're actually on a default setting to perpetuate suffering until we've had enough. And then when we start to quiet down and realize we can't go out there and chase our appetites and our impulses, we have to actually start moving inward. As he says in the Course, going outward is insanity, and it'll just make you mad. Going inward is sanity. And when we start to quiet down and actually accept what we've been unconsciously rejecting, which is this love, we begin to see that this whole world and every living thing in it is having the same dream. The Buddha said this to Subhuti in the Vajracchedika Sutra, the Diamond Sutra. Subhuti, look at this world. Know it is a phantom. Know it's like a soap bubble. Know that it's like a passing dream or a mist. When we get quiet enough and end this seeking mind and come to a place of accepting the love, this whole world becomes dreamlike. And not only do we see it as a dream, but we actually see what caused it. This is why we're going to solve the problem of life in 45 minutes. We're going to see what caused the dream in the first place. It's very tricky when you first start to look at it, because even when you start quieting down and looking inward, you still assume you're a separate being, that you still are this self-concept. there is a section in A Course in Miracles that's entitled The Concept of the Self. And he says that there are three parts, three levels to this self-concept that we've built. See, within the Course, he already assumes the truth when he speaks to you, that you're not the body image. And you can never be a separate self. You're a spiritual entity made in the likeness and image of your source, who is a spiritual entity. So that means that we all originated in a higher state of awareness. He says birth is not a beginning. It's a continuation. And the whole dream of birth and death, he says, originated when we were before time. The Sufis call it the day of a last, where we all agreed that we are the divine children of the One Supreme. And then we listened to what he calls in the Course the lies of the serpent, which is basically that you can do the impossible. You can separate yourself from the all and everything and become an individual separate from everyone and everything else. But before we've done that, we were already all and everything. Now, we appear to separate because this world is actually the continuation of that thought that we are in a state of isolation and deprivation and lack. So it appears real for us. But what he's saying, what the Buddha is saying, what all these great teachings are saying is that this separation actually never occurred in your true essence. Heaven is here. There is nowhere else. Heaven is now. There is no other time. Every religion at its essence is, in its true import, is designed to bring you back to this state now, to end your suffering, to give you the opportunity to receive the love that you want. But in this self-concept that we've built, there is the face that we all have here, what Jesus calls the good face, the innocent face, the face turned toward the world. But he says there's another face. Nothing that I had planned to share with you this morning, but here we are. And it's so rich. Now, this first face, listen to this. The concept of the self has the face of innocence. And he describes this face of innocence, which is our face that we look at in the mirror and that other people look at. The face of innocence. We were just little babies that came into the world. We're not spiritual entities. We're physical bodies. We're not spiritual beings having a human experience. We are simply human. All too human. But this is something when we start to quiet down and listen and look deeper. There's this face of innocence that smiles and charms and even seems to love. It searches for companions, and it looks at times with pity on the suffering, and sometimes offers solace. It believes that it is good within an evil world. This aspect can grow angry, for the world is wicked and unable to provide the love and shelter and innocence that it deserves. And so this face is often wet with tears at the injustices the world accords to those who would be generous and good. Right? This aspect never makes the first attack, this face of innocence, but every day 100 little things make small assaults upon its innocence, provoking it to irritation and at last to open insult and abuse. The face of innocence, the concept of the self so proudly wears, can tolerate attacking others in self-defense. For is it not a well-known fact that the world deals harshly with defenseless innocence? You have to be tough. You know, this is one of the things that I've now recently, the past few years, brought into my dream, the voice of my beloved Lisa. Because I grew up in an environment where even my closest family members weren't on my side. I learned through tears and pain that I had to be tough. I didn't start out that way. I was innocent. I was a good guy, good kid. But through these harsh experiences, even from nurturing influences like my grandmother, who should have been nurturing, was actually, very difficult towards me, very cruel towards me. When I saw that Jerry Lewis movie, Cinderfella, did you ever see Cinderfella? I was young. I was like, I'm Cinderfella. I literally lived in the basement of my grandmother's house, and my cousin, loved my cousin, but he was the prince of the family, and my grandmother showered all of her wealth on him and her accolades, etc. And I was the forgotten one living in the basement. Only good to go to my family's restaurant and work. So I had this feeling like, she doesn't love me unless I'm doing something for her. And there's nothing within me that is going to put up with that. So I had to get tough and not trust people's way of showing up. They're probably going to hurt you. Here comes Lisa years later, and I've lived through these bumps and bruises over time, but she's always seeing the good in people. She always wants to see that everyone has the light within them and that they deserve our best thoughts, even if they're not showing up as their best self. And me, on the other hand, I felt like, they deserved my criticism and my judgment first, unless they proved better. Now, where I'm going with this is, remember that my experience is my dream. And if we're following this train of thought, as a spiritual entity, I actually caused the world that I see. I caused my grandmother to be the way she is. Because deep down, when I separated from the love of God in that spiritual dimension, I lacked it. And when I caused that separation, I felt the guilt of it. The body experience is the after effect of that spiritual choice. So now I lacked love in the spiritual dimension because I chose to go with this idea of separating from my source and living with my own appetite, my own desires, loving and hating according to my whims and wishes. That happened in a spiritual dimension. I don't want to take blame for that. So my self-concept in the world shows up first as an innocent baby. Innocent. But there's another face below that face of innocence. And this, every time I leave, I say to Lisa, did I go a little too heavy today? Was it a little too deep? Well, she's like, maybe you want to brighten it up next week a little bit. So consider this the brightening. Back to the story. There's another face. And he says the other side of this face of innocence is that we don't want to see it. We don't want to see this other part of our face. It's what Jung called the shadow. But it is here the learning of the world has set its sights. For it is here the world's reality is set to see to it that this false self, this idol, stays in place firmly in your mind. So this whole world is designed to keep you from experiencing the love that you desperately need. But the world is here by your election. That's why it's hard to accept this. A lot of people dabble in the Course and then they run away. And they run away because they begin to realize that the Course actually delivers. It's the real medicine that we need. Most of us, even if we're spiritually oriented, still want to be this face of innocence and somehow find out there something that validates us so that we can not really change. We could still be who we want to be, and then God can kind of merge with our dream. That's why without this esoteric or deeper teaching, all religions are an opiate. They're a numbing agent. They'll tell you very nice stories, and then they can maybe soothe your sleep a little bit, and you can feel good within the surface mind. But if you really want to wake up and end suffering for yourself, you have to look. And that means, yes, it's going to be really bright, but we first have to go into the sewer. And this other face is really where the whole problem lies. This is the face that lacks love, the part of you that lacks love. And it feels the lack of God, the lack of its true origin. And yet, the guilt in the mind, and this is the deeper mind, is so intense and so severe. This is, again, why we run away from the Course. Because it'll take you back to a place where you are the eternal spiritual entity. And have you look, in an ancient time, long ago, you made a choice. You don't remember it because all you remember is the face of innocence now. But long ago, you made a choice. And he says this choice is a lesson in terrible displacement and a fear so devastating that the face which smiles above must forever look away. Must forever look away, lest it perceive the treachery that this other part of you hides. You want to wake up? You want to end suffering in the world? Truly? You want to be done with this veil of tears? Then realize that you are the eternal entity. You're the one. And when I say that, I'm in an echo chamber. I'm saying it to me simultaneously. We're the one. We're dreaming this. And we just so happen to be in such a place of blessing now that we can maybe, hopefully, have a half an ear open and know that we are listening to something that will actually be the remedy. And we can stop projecting from this place of treachery. He says, this is the lesson that this treacherous part of you teaches. I am the thing you made of me. So this starts with your infancy. When you're born, you're crying, and it's somebody else's problem to feed you. It's not your fault. I'm this way because of what you've made of me. This is the tagline for every lack of love experience that you've had. Broken family relationships, dysfunctional relationships. This is all coming back to this oftentimes deeply unconscious statement, broken marriages, etc. I am this way because of what you did or did not do. Right? And he says this is a lesson in terrible displacement. Because what's really going on is we are so oblivious to the fact that we've done this to ourselves. And we keep pulling actors into our dream movie to make it look so believable with mounting evidence that it can't be that. I'm innocent. I didn't do this. They did this. I'm this way because of what they did. Terrible displacement. But that actually is the ailment. That's the disease. The heart's disease. And the only way to cure it is to realize, I did this. That can be a tough one in some areas. You know, I was thinking about this morning. And many of you know this. My dad was murdered when I was 2. And it occurred to me when I was thinking about our lesson this morning. It's such my movie that all the evidence pointed to this one person. Never arrested, never convicted. And this person's name happens to be John. John murdered my father. Now, is that just, coincidence? When we're talking about quieting the mind and going deeper, this is a profound and universal truth. I made this reality so that I don't have to look at what I think I did to love. I punish myself physically. Sometimes some of us do this. We punish ourselves physically with ailments and diseases and viruses. So it looks like, again, we didn't cause this. Something other did this. A lesson in terrible displacement. And then he says that this central lesson ensures that your brother, whoever they are, is condemned eternally. For what you are has now become his sin. We do this personally, and we do this collectively. We have our geopolitical enemies as we have our interpersonal enemies. It's happening at every scale. That's why when you end it in your consciousness, you change the whole game. Again, I'm in an echo chamber. You can neither be blamed for what you are, nor can you change the things that what you are makes you do. And he says the way out of this is to first get quiet and look at your life from this witnessing place. This is Rumi to help in this process. The hiding place. So what we've been saying this whole while is that this whole world, starting from our infancy, has been a hiding place for our spirit. That we don't want to look, so we have this world that is so distracting and so chaotic and so hypnotic. And the problem always seems to be going on out there. That it gives us total release or freedom from ever having to look. It's a hiding place. He says the most secure place to hide a treasure of gold is in some desolate, unnoticed place. Why would anyone hide treasure in plain sight? And so it is said, joy is hidden beneath sorrow. Joy is hidden beneath sorrow. So when we're looking at this world through the eyes of the ego, it will be never ceasing suffering. When we begin to quiet down and open our hearts to the guidance, whatever way that shows up through the Holy Spirit in whatever form, it begins to take you into a place of seeing your life and everything that happened to you as the opportunities to release you from this terrible dream of displacement. So my grandmother, when seen from this place, is my liberator. The one who murdered my father saves me when seen from this place. And if you begin to follow this scent towards true love, you'll realize that, and we said this before, everything that has happened to you needed to be. Need it. You needed it in order to bring you to a place where you can finally surrender and accept love. And when you begin to see it, it's very much like Willy Wonka. The villain, Sluggo, actually worked for Willy Wonka. And his job was to bring the temptation so that you can know your character and accept your true inheritance. So everyone is playing a role similar, even the ones that seem to be villains. So this is catch the scent. Whether one moves slowly or with speed, the one who is a seeker will be a finder. Always seek with your whole self, for the search is an excellent guide on the way. Though you are lame and limping, though your figure is bent and clumsy, always creep towards the one. Make the one your quest. By speech and by silence and by fragrance, catch the scent of the King everywhere. So allow these words to take you in. When we're trying to get these ideas and we're trying to understand, oftentimes we're so caught up in the thinking and the conceptualizing that we don't take time for the silence to intervene where the experience is to be had. So the words are prompts, and they induce this opening within the heart. So allow yourself to drop deeper into the heart. Go below the surface. Let the words serve that function for you. And this will help in that journey inward. This one is from Rumi again. Draw near. Whatever it is you wish to marry, go. Absorb yourself in that beloved. Assume its shape and qualities. If you wish for the light, prepare yourself to receive it. If you wish to be far from God, nourish your egoism and drive yourself away. If you wish to find a way out of this ruined prison, don't turn your head away from the beloved, but bow and worship and draw near. That's why forgiveness is the key to happiness. We're keeping ourselves in prison because we're on this unconscious setting of reactive behavior, that everything bad that happens to us is somebody else's fault. I watch it in myself all the time. As soon as something goes wrong, my first thought is, who's to blame? And 99 times, it's not me. So the forgiveness is the realization that all of the pain and suffering that I am experiencing, or that I even see in the world that others are experiencing, is caused by this terrible lesson in displacement. I am this way because somebody else is that way. And they deserve condemnation. They're evil. They're wrong. And so this experience, the only way out of it is the remedy of forgiveness. That's why Jesus will say in A Course in Miracles, forgiveness is the way that love, this all-encompassing love, shows up in this world of fragmentation. Because it puts everything back into interconnectivity. Because you begin to realize that I am the one that has this other face below the surface. My face of innocence will never look there. Remember? It doesn't ever want to admit the shadow. And yet, to heal, I have to admit the shadow, because the shadow is causing my dream to look the way it does. And it's actually bringing in the cast of characters so that I can displace all my guilt on them. So forgiveness in this universal sense is the only way out. You have to actually forgive yourself in that ancient place within your mind. Your birth was not a beginning. That's why he'll say, the holiest spot on earth is where an ancient hatred has become present love. This is where forgiveness needs to go in you, into this ancient place. Your face of innocence doesn't believe it's there. It's designed never to look there. But there's a part of your mind that when you've gotten to the place of really feeling the misery and dissatisfactoriness of life, you'd be like, whatever it is, whatever's the way out, on your terms, not my terms, your will, not my will, I'm ready. I'm done. I'm done. I give up. I'm not the authority anymore. I'm not the one who's right anymore. Then you're ready to look. And then you're ready to look that everything that's coming from you is looking as if it's not your fault. The face that's below the surface is what you're actually projecting onto everybody else. This is the trippiest part of our talk, right here. It's been described this way. Before time ever was, before this hiding place of a world ever was, you can call yourself self-A, self-prime. There was no opposite to you. You're the one. And the beauty of creation is this one is multifaceted. So there is similarity and difference occurring simultaneously in this unitive state. We are all facets within an eternal jewel, and each one of us has a different note, a different way of experiencing the oneness that we all share. It's all holographically reflected and incorporated into one another, but we are unique in this unity. So self-prime. This uniqueness had a thought. What would it be like if I took my uniqueness and explored it all on my own? No longer in this hologram of shared identity, but my own. I get to write my own script. I get to dream my own dream. So self-prime becomes self-letter B. And everything else becomes self-letter C. Every other self now is not self-B. So you're all self-C. I'm self-B. I don't remember self-A. And most of us here, you don't either. So you're self-B, and I'm self-C. I'm other than you. It's a split. And it looks like we were never one. So everything that I'm experiencing about you, whether I love it or hate it, is mine. Because self-C is actually my own unconscious. This is trippy. Stay with me. Everything that you're experiencing as other than you is still you, but the face of innocence is so ingeniously designed that it doesn't appear to have ever been you. But it's you. You're self-A. Never stops. Never changes. So it's literally insanity to hate and attack others and think that you can do something to better yourself at the expense of others. Total insanity and a recipe for suffering. And yet this whole world was originally designed for that purpose. Forgiveness comes in and says, actually, you're only forgiving your own unconscious projections. You're not forgiving others. There's no such thing as others. It's a lesson in terrible displacement. And you'll really get to see what's percolating below in the shadow when you are thinking of your special hate relation. Who do you hate the most? I'm sure it's right there now. Who do you hate with a passion? That's you. That's the parts of you that you refuse to accept. It can't be you. So with this teaching, we heal the world and end the dream because we're the only one dreaming it. And this is what he says, ultimately, all of us have to realize there's nothing outside of you. These are all your imaginary projections that appear as forms on this dreamscape. Like the Buddha said to Subhuti, it's here today and gone in a flash. It's a mist. It's a soap bubble. It's a mirage. It's a dream. And Subhuti in the Vajracchedika, the Diamond Sutra, said, world-honored one, when you are liberated, do you liberate all beings? And he says, no, Subhuti, never think that way. Because when one is truly liberated, one realizes there was no one to liberate. There are no separate beings to be liberated. They are your projections that are occurring in a mind that is estranged from its own all-encompassing love. Did that communicate? You're not saving anyone out there. You're ending your projections of hatred that would have you believe there could be people separate from their source, alone and wandering in the world. Remember, though, your face of innocence, the part of you that's on the surface right now, if you've just, you're still hanging on. It can't accept this. It mustn't. Every defense is to distance you from this. This is the whole point. I can't do that because then I'll have to go back and look at my darkness. It's not me. So everything that the little self believes is designed to distance you from this love. And he uses Freud's psychology a lot in the Course. I love this one. The defense, this is a Freudian defense within the subconscious mind, a defense of exteriorizing. In other words, the sacred is out there just like the bad stuff is out there. We defend the little self, even if we want to wake up. We'll have to exteriorize the guru. We'll have to exteriorize that something out there is holier and more sacred. A place on the planet, a building, a temple, a person, a book. It's simply you projecting again your sacredness and thinking that the imaginary form actually is the cause of your sacredness. So the little self can still be a forgiver. This is the beauty of it. You can actually rewire the whole paradigm and turn the nightmare of the ego into what he calls the happy dream, where you start to, you get this deeper gnosis, you get this knowledge that everything that I'm thinking is other is my own disassociated self. And I've been using others to try to get rid of my own hatred and guilt. It's me. It's all me. Even when I don't want to remember that, it's still me. So only forgiveness. And when I start to be a forgiver, knowing that it's only my own darkness, my own projections, even geopolitically, even if extraterrestrials were to land here right now and be malevolent, these are my projections from that spiritual dimension of being the cosmic dreamer. Is this too much for you? I'm meaning to go light today. All of that to say, be a forgiver. And we'll end here. Loving to forgive. Be cheerful. Call for help. Call for help to the one who comes at the call. This is what we've also factored out in the nightmare, that we're the author of ourself. We're the only authority. And it's not true. That's why the guru, if it's a real guru, will be a clear window to show you there is this supreme intelligence that knows all and can bend and break physical laws and limits and bring you the grace that will flood you with everything you want. So the guru, if he's or she's doing her job, brings you to the realization that if you call to the one, that one who is true will hear your call. And it can happen all on the inner planes. You don't need the physical. So call to the one who comes at the call saying, forgive us, you who love to forgive. And that's the end here. That's why he says, God is the strength in which I forgive. Forgive us, you who love to forgive. Rumi's words. God is the strength in which I forgive. Jesus' words from the Course. So by healing your split mind and forgiving it, by seeing it no longer projecting onto others, you'll have the strength to do this when you call. But remember the first line, be cheerful. Blue bag is going to go around. I do want to make two announcements before we hear from you guys. Next Sunday at 3 p.m., we're having our Interfaith Thanksgiving Day service just down the road at First Methodist Church here in Stewart. So 3 p.m., Interfaith Thanksgiving. I'll be speaking, Reverend Jude, a bunch of other people. You'd really like to come out and join us and support us. Roberta, anything else you want to add to that? And then secondly, and hear this, we're going to be starting again our A Course in Miracles group. So Mondays in the classroom, starting, mark it down, December 13th at 7:15 p.m. December 13th, that's a Monday. December 13th, 7:15 p.m. Let's bless the offering. And we are grateful. We're grateful for the gifts and the love behind the giving. And may this love continue to spread into the world and take whatever form it needs to charge and bless and remind those who are literally the love and light of God. And so it is. Amen. Any thoughts? Oh, good. Did we solve the world problem? Very good. I know, it's like, shh. Anyone else? Comments? Yeah, but something in you gets it. I hope. It's good. Yes. Say that again. Whatever the question, the answer is love. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Any final words here? Oh, thanks, Annie. Right. All right, let's rise. And we call the strength of God into the heart, this pure light, this pure love, and we ask that the power of forgiveness radiate through us and through all the networks within our life so that we can see a world transformed from our own denied darkness into our accepted love and light. And in this light, we know that the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. Amen. Have a beautiful day, everybody. Joy, peace, blessings.